Remaining under motions and resolutions, the Secretary will read a motion.
Senator Nelson moves that her name be stricken as chief author shown as a co-author, and the name of Senator Chamberlain be shown as chief author of Senate File Number 463.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. We'll pause for alternative location votes. There being a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails. Senator Nelson. Oh, sorry, under motions and resolutions, Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do move that Senate File 485 be removed from general orders and be re-referred to the Committee on Finance. This is my bill, and Senator Rosen would like this bill in her committee.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. We'll pause while we gather the votes. There being a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate that House File Number 331 be made for special orders for immediate consideration. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Mr. President. I move that we take House File 331 from the table.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. We'll pause while we gather the votes. There being a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Now, Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate that House File number 331 be made special orders for immediate consideration.
Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members. House File 331 is the long-debated Tobacco 21 legislation. This legislation is primarily due to federal conformity issues. You'll recall that in December of 2019, the federal government raised the tobacco age to 21. That is, to purchase and use tobacco, you have to be 21 years of age. That is the short story. So this bill had to come up to address those issues. The federal law has created confusion with local law enforcement agencies and retailers as to what they should do, how they should sell their products, and who can be held accountable, and how those fines and or penalties would be levied. So this bill is needed to reconcile that, to clear up that confusion, and to move forward. This bill is supported by law enforcement agencies, and there are already 75 communities across the state that have implemented Tobacco 21 laws. Again, it is to raise the legal age of 21 for the purchase of tobacco products and delivery systems. So just quickly, the bill conforming changes from 18 to 21. Statute 171 deals with the sale of alcohol and tobacco products and license suspension of those who provide licenses to others, to minors, to buy products. There are also some alternative penalties here for those who are purchasing products and are not of age. The penalties that are in the bill as is allow flexibility to local law enforcement and the local officials as to how they should levy deal with those who are under 21 and purchasing the products. It does not include monetary fines or penalties, but it can include other penalties and fines that the local officials come up with. It also has to make some conforming changes to 609.85, which deals with the sale of tobacco itself, and then 609.855 of those delivery systems. Again, some people will say differently, but Federal conformity was the issue here, even though 75 communities in this state have passed tobacco 21 laws. Federal law has compelled this, for the most part, to alleviate confusion for enforcement authorities and for retailers as well. Members, that's it in a nutshell. I am sure there'll be some discussion and amendments to this bill. Rather there not being amendments on the bill as is, it will get through and get done, and there'll be no further confusion going forward. So members, that's the quick story with House File 331, what is known as T21. Thank you.
Members wishing to speak, I have Senator Paul Anderson. Senator Anderson, make your way to the chamber, please. Senator Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support of this bill. I thank Senator Chamberlain for authoring it. This is something that I've supported in the last couple of years. I want to recognize the communities that I represent, Plymouth and Minnetonka, that have both passed this early on and have been strong supporters. A lot of people have passionately advocated for this passage. I want to especially recognize Marty and Ann Davis and the wonderful people at Cambria for promoting the concept, They Lied, We Know, that took over a lot of the high schools in pushing for the reduction and the elimination of e-cigarettes in our schools. As a parent, as somebody who has two children, two girls in a high school and a middle school, I've heard the last 4 years of the increased use of e-cigarettes, and this is again something that we need to do everything we can to reduce and eliminate youth smoking and try and really push for a healthier, stable workforce, a stable community, a stable state, so we're not dealing with these tragedies of the healthcare system that is caused in the problems with smoking. So again, I stand in support of this bill, and I thank the author.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Ralph. Senator Ralph, please make your way to the chamber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try and be brief, but I will have some things to say. I have two parents that both passed away from smoking-related cancers. I am basically against cigarette use, but I also have some issues with this bill. As I understand the bill, you can't buy it. You cannot buy these products if you're under 21. But you can lawfully possess them and you can lawfully use them. Now, I don't know of any other law in this state that does that, that says you can own it, but you can't buy it. I think if we're going to have laws that affect people's rights, and let's talk about that for a minute. If you're 18, you can buy a house, you can buy a car, you can enter into a contract, you can marry. You can vote, but you can't smoke a cigarette. You can carry a weapon in defense of your country, but you can't smoke a cigarette. And I think we have to ask ourselves what message we're sending to people when we tell them that they have the knowledge, responsibility, and ability to be able to undertake these activities, but they don't have the ability to make a decision regarding cigarettes or tobacco products. I recognize that there is a great growing problem in our schools with the use of e-cigarettes. I think that's regrettable. I also believe that we need to take some responsibilities. Education is important, and I know the schools are working hard to try and educate kids against smoking. We have to ask for a little bit of parental responsibility. I know had I smoked, My dad would have sent me out to the woodshed to pick a stick, and it would have been a big one. So I think we have to take some responsibility on this, and I hope we do. I really believe that if we're going to have laws, they should be logical. This is a good law with a good purpose, but it is illogical. I'm also concerned that we are being stampeded into something because of what the federal government is doing. The federal government is basically holding us hostage. They are telling us that they are going to withhold money from us if we don't conform. They are also creating a situation where there is a total confusion with respect to shop owners and what they can lawfully do. I think that's terrible. Now, reluctantly, I will be supporting this bill because I do believe in its underlying purposes, which is to try and help kids to stop smoking. But I do so with the reservations that I have just set forth, that I think it is a bad example to take and deprive people who have of their rights when they are deemed capable of making decisions that truly affect the way we live. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ralph. Senator Howe. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I would like to offer the A51 amendment.
Senator Howe offers the A51 amendment. The Secretary will read the amendment. Report the amendment.
Senator Howe moves to amend House File Number 331 as follows, page 3, line 3, delete. This is the A51 amendment.
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, what this amendment does is I've had some issues with the bill because what it does is basically go after the retailers and penalize the retailers, but it does nothing for the individual that's trying to obtain the tobacco. And so what this amendment basically does is it makes it almost hand in hand with the penalties from our liquor. So liquor bills that says that if you're underage and you consume or have in your possession alcohol, here's the penalties that are provided. That is basically what this amendment does, is it falls in line with that same mentality. Because if all you do is penalize the retailers and those that provide it, there is nothing to prevent and there's nothing to cause those individuals that are obtaining and using tobacco or vaping, there's nothing to say that they shouldn't continue to try to obtain it and to use it. There's no penalties for them. So members, I would try to be nice with this thing. So it provides penalties for not only the retailers, but also those under 21 of age. Similar to the penalties of the underage for the use of alcohol. For the first offense, no one gets a fine. All it does on the first offense, it requires for additional compliance training for those retailers or those that provided it. It also does not provide a penalty for the first offense of getting caught with possession or use. It requires you to get an alternative penalty or education, and so it makes it a little bit nicer than what I had first thought about doing with the penalties. Mr. President, what this does, I had been in contact with my local law enforcement to see how this would go, if they were in favor of the additional penalties or not. They told me that this would make it easier to enforce, and it would, as long as it was similar to the alcohol provisions. And so they have been in support of that, and I will stand for questions, Mr. President.
Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Howe. I do appreciate the amendment. However, like it is in most cases these days, such an amendment would throw this out of whack. The language is agreed to and accepted by all parties. New amendments to this would throw that out of whack and jeopardize the bill. Secondly, while there are not monetary penalties in the bill as listed, members and Mr. President, there is the ability for people local officials and law enforcement to create ordinances to impose penalties. It just says they cannot impose a monetary penalty or a fine. Gives them some flexibility in that case to deal as they see fit locally with the issue. First, it'll kind of throw it out of whack and jeopardize the underlying bill. Secondly, there are opportunities for penalties in here, just not financial penalties. Thirdly, to make it easier for them to do it, I don't know if that is necessarily the best way to address this. This bill is not going to go away. This will be in statute. We will be here. It will be here to be addressed at a later date. So this isn't going away. I appreciate the intent, but the bill's not going to go away, and it can be amended and fixed in the future. Just that doing it now would jeopardize this, and it's not a necessary addition to the legislation as it stands. Thank you. So I would pose this amendment. Vote red, please. Thank you.
Further discussion on the A51 amendment? Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Chamberlain stand for a question?
Senator Chamberlain will yield. Senator Chamberlain. Or Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Chamberlain, is it, and help me understand why it puts this bill in jeopardy. I know that this came over from the House. Have we done something that we don't have conference committees any longer?
Senator Chamberlain.
No, Senator Howe, we still can have conference committees, that is true, but the language as is, as most things are, it's taken a while. I think Senator Anderson referred to it. It's been a couple of years in the process of getting to this point, and then with the passage of the federal law, it's made this a little bit easier to do now, more compelling, but it would create an extra problem in negotiations in getting this done this year.
Any further discussion on the A51 amendment? Seeing none, all those in... Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to move that down a bit. So, youth drinking in Minnesota has actually declined over the last 10 to 20 years, where youth vaping is skyrocketing. We've all heard the statistics. We all heard the stories. I think it was just last summer. So I found one statistic that showed vaping in 8th grade, so 8th graders vaping, nearly doubled, and another statistic that showed the amount of young kids vaping that are 8th graders has increased 95% since 2016. We need to do something about that, and I think this bill is a good start. We talked about the penalties in judiciary. We have had many philosophical discussions in judiciary about should we be criminalizing addiction, should we be treating addiction, and we kind of had the discussion about this bill too on should we include those penalties or not. The possession and use and purpose penalties, PUP penalties as they're called, are not in the federal T21 bill, as Senator Chamberlain mentioned. That's the bill President Trump signed, and we believe, or I believe, we should mirror that bill for clarity for our retailers. In the Judiciary Committee, we heard from a woman with the American Lung Association who covers the northern Minnesota territory. She mentioned that the police chiefs from Pequot Lakes, Baxter and Brainerd, helped lead on this issue. They do not support having kids penalized. They didn't think we should have those penalties in this bill. She talked about discussions that she had and attended at several communities across the state, including the Beltrami County Board meeting, where they discussed and they were worried about including the penalties because of unintended consequences. The penalties that we have today are not deterring people from smoking. They are not deterring kids from smoking. I think this bill takes that philosophical approach that we discussed in judiciary and takes a public health approach. So I think we should do that. I think we should try it because, again, the penalties right now are not deterring kids from smoking. So I ask you to vote no on this amendment.
Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And as I know that some people are concerned about their children getting into trouble, I do believe that deterrence does play a part. I know that one of the bigger deterrents there are for the minors in the use of alcohol is the penalties that they face. And that's why I went to that provisions to do that similar penalties in this amendment. Mr. President, I ask for a roll call.
Roll call requested. Roll call granted to the A51 amendment. Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to join Senator Chamberlain in opposing the Howe amendment. I think the concern here that Senator Dietzig pointed out about expansion of vaping and so on, this amendment looks to me like it removes the penalty for first offense for a retailer who violates this. So if a retailer is violating this and if they find them violating it, we take away the penalty on first offense. I think that's a step backwards, and I urge you to reject the amendment.
Senator Hayden.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, and I would also like to support Senator Chamberlain and not supporting Senator Howe's amendment. I think that there has been widespread agreement. I think Senator Dietzig did a wonderful job at talking about the issue. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that we, at least in my community, law enforcement has a lot to do. They have a lot of things to figure out, and they have a lot of real crimes that I think are being committed, and then to just task them with one more thing to do, I think would be unfortunate, especially for young people, in which we know that sometimes they make decisions. I would also make a distinction that finding a young person who might have a cigarette is a much different than if they had a bottle of vodka or an illicit drug or something that could actually harm somebody. So what I'd like to be able to do is to make sure, and we talk a lot about family values here. Senator Ralph came out and said if he got caught smoking at a young age, his dad would take him to the woodshed. I'm not suggesting that people should beat their kids, if you will, but I certainly think that parental control and that their parents and guardians or whatever should be able to talk to them about it and get them to know that the issues and the long-term implications that you would have if you're smoking, especially at such a young age. So once again, I would ask the body to not vote for the Howe amendment and to stick with the agreement that Senator Chamberlain has presented.
Thank you, Senator Hayden. Next on the A51 amendment, Senator Nelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to the A51 amendment. As has been stated, there is agreement with the House on the language as is, and the House will not support these penalties. If this bill is amended today, I do not think we will get it passed this year. It is very important that we get this bill passed this year. The federal law was supported by Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and President Trump. They did not include penalties for underage possession, use, and purchase, and Minnesota should align our laws and remove those penalties, which are not effective. Minnesotans for Smoke-Free Generation and health groups like the American Cancer Society and others oppose these type of penalties because they don't work. They don't work in decreasing youth tobacco use. Raising the tobacco age is about protecting our youth, not punishing them. Some of the state's Tobacco 21 communities did consider expanding PUP penalties, but after hearing the evidence and hearing concerns from local and statewide health groups and listening to their constituents, they decided against it. Today, the vast majority of Minnesota's 75 Tobacco 21 communities have decided against expanding PUP penalties beyond state law, concluding that it was best for their community to support a responsible retail environment rather than to penalize youth. There are still ways, of course, for youth to be held accountable for these underage tobacco use. This bill in its, without the PUP penalty that Mr. Howe would add, just takes kids out of the criminal justice system. So I would speak against this penalty.
Further discussion on the 851 amendment? Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I heard it stated here on the Senate floor regarding smoking and alcohol, with the implication somehow that, well, alcohol is a worse thing because you have alcohol. But if you have a cigarette, that's not so bad. And I want to tell you, as a nurse, a cigarette, and it's highly addictive, especially in teenagers in their older years, as a matter of fact, up to 23, 24, is highly addictive. And you'll find the majority of people who are addicted to smoking come out of those younger days. And matter of fact, right now with COVID, by the way, COVID in particular, your lungs are very, very important. So those with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and other kinds of lung conditions are particularly vulnerable to COVID, in addition to the elderly. And so I would say, in fact, and by the way, we have had millions, tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars in regards to cessation of smoking, so many, and these younger ages. I think it is time we have an amendment like this, because as it did with alcohol, so it will with smoking. Those kinds of consequences, and I especially appreciate the first time, was not a criminal or a penalty or anything like that, but was focused on education. I think that's an excellent way to go. But certainly the thought that smoking is not something that is serious would belie all of the millions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars we have been spending for the last 10, 15 years. I think it is time to do something a little more than just talk about it. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. Next on the 851 amendment, Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the amendment. It's a good amendment. I am very confused why we don't want to impress upon kids that it's not right to smoke, that it's not good to smoke. By the way, members, and being a member of a city council for a number of years, I participated in DARE program ceremonies. And for those of you who don't know about that, DARE is a school program where kids learn what not to do. Smoking is one of them. And to not have a penalty for an illegal activity makes the law a suggestion. Doesn't do anything. Now, if you want to hold businesses responsible, I find that very interesting, because now we're attacking businesses and making them become the enforcers. But we should have a penalty on the person who's doing the activity. And to say that there's not a penalty, that you can stand on a street corner at 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 and smoke, which is not good, illegal, and not have a penalty, it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. I know there's another amendment floating around regarding military people who are in military service. We're telling people, and point's already been made, we're telling people with this bill that it's fine and dandy for you to take up arms to defend this country, but God help you if you come to Minnesota and have a cigarette at age 19. It's amazing. Now, to the entire bill, so I'll catch up my whole commentary in one big discussion. We all know that this is being provided to us by the federal government, and they are using money to extort Minnesota. This has been done over and over and over again. Let me be very clear. Smoking is not good for you. I don't smoke. My brother doesn't smoke. My mom did. My dad actually laid down laws in our household
that my mother was not allowed to smoke in front of us. That's how anti-smoking my dad is, or was. But, members, when Minnesota had a drinking age that wasn't acceptable to the federal government, what did they do? They threatened to withhold funds from the state of Minnesota until this body in this building changed the laws. Wasn't because we wanted to necessarily, and of course I don't think there's anybody in this body now that was here when that happened. Wasn't because we necessarily wanted to, but it was certainly impressed upon us by the federal government that you will do this or you will lose money. And if memory serves me correctly, and I was pretty small when this happened, back in the 70s, I think it was the Nixon administration. Funny, it's the Trump administration this time, it was the Reagan administration, I think, when we changed the alcohol laws. The Nixon administration, I believe, which forced all of our roads to go to 55. What'd they do to that? I believe they tried to withhold federal roads funds. Folks, we are the state of Minnesota. We make the decisions for this state, for the federal government, and I don't give a darn if this is a Republican president or not. I don't care if Mitch McConnell thinks it's a good idea. If they want to do it, that's their choice. But if the state of Minnesota has the choice, we should not be extorted into a position by money that's being dangled out in front of us or told we're going to take it away, especially 2 years from now. So, in closing, members, smoking is not good. I am not here to defend smoking. I am not here to defend Philip Morris. I am not a Marlboro man. But for us to accede to Washington, D.C. and be extorted again does not follow the federalism that this country was founded on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion on the A51 amendment. Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Osmak stepped away. So the DARE program is an educational program, I believe. And I think that's what part of the purpose of getting rid of some of these, we're in the conversation in local communities of getting rid of some of these PUP penalties, the possession and use penalties, is because they believe we should try, they aren't working, so we believe we should try more education. Both in drinking, I think the DARE program also does alcohol, they do tobacco, and I think we need to expand on that. It is education. There are penalties in the bill, and the bill also doesn't disallow sanctions. So if you're on the football team, or you're in band, or you're on the swim team in school, they can still sanction you and say, no alcohol, no tobacco. It just provides more of a diversion program to help move our kids, and we don't get them in the criminal path, we divert them. It is a philosophical change. Do we want to treat addiction? Do we want to prevent addiction? So I urge a no vote on this amendment.
Further discussion on the A51 amendment. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if, that's why I added in the first offense that they get diversion training. And I will say that that's the same and compliance training for the retailers. But I will say that I have not seen a movement anywhere to change the alcohol penalties. So as we talk a good game about how penalties don't work, it sure seems like they work in the alcohol arena, and I do believe that they'll work as a deterrent on the tobacco arena. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion on the A51. Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on the A51 amendment. Those members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to cast your vote. Next, members in the GOP caucus room, Capitol Room 303, make your way down to the floor. While they're coming to the floor, the President's office, please come to the floor to vote. Those members in Capitol Room 206, please make your way to the floor and vote. Those members in Capitol Room 237, please make your way to the floor and vote. Members in DFL Caucus Room, Capitol Room 323, please make your way down to vote. Pursuant to Rule 14.4, remote members will now take in the vote. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Champion.
Senator Champion votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Eaton.
Senator
Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Bruce Anderson votes yes.
Senator Anderson B votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Dames votes no.
Senator Dames votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Eichhorn votes no.
Senator Eichhorn votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Ingebretson votes no.
Senator Ingebretson votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Lang votes yes.
Senator Lang votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Pratt votes yes.
Senator Pratt votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Rude votes no.
Senator Rude votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Senjum votes no.
Senator, repeat. Senator Senjum votes no.
No.
Senator Gazelka.
Senator Newman votes yes.
Senator Newman votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Rosen votes no.
Senator Rosen votes no. All those senators having to vote that wish to vote, Secretary will report the roll. We'll close the roll. There being 44 no and 23 ayes, the motion does not prevail. The amendment does not pass. Senator Tomassoni.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members. I have the 852 amendment, Mr. President.
Senator Tomassoni offers the A52 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Tomassoni moves to amend House File Number 331 as follows, page 3, line 13, after the period insert. This is the A52 amendment.
Senator Tomassoni.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the 852 amendment does one simple thing. It allows military enlisted people who are less than 21 years old to legally smoke. And Senator Ralph did a good job of describing this before and talking about people's responsibilities and what they can and can't do. And at 18 years old, we can vote. At 18 years old, we can enlist in the military service. But now at 18 years old, we're not going to be allowing the people who are risking their lives for our country and protecting us to be able to smoke. And I can guarantee you that even without an amendment like this, they will be smoking in the military. But the fact of the matter is it should be legal and they should not be getting in any kind of trouble for putting their lives on the line and for being willing to defend this country. And so, members, all this does is say that if you're in the military and you're less than 21 years old, it's legal for you to smoke. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Senator Tomassoni. Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Tomassoni. Members, I thank you, Senator Tomassoni, for the consideration. However, I'm a veteran as well. However, I respectfully ask that we oppose the amendment and vote red. This one would simply take this bill out of conformity with the federal law, with the bill that came down, with their legislation. So I respectfully decline and ask you to oppose the amendment. Thank you.
Further discussion on the A52 amendment, Senator Tomassoni.
Mr. President, will Senator Chamberlain yield?
Senator Chamberlain will yield. Senator Tomassoni.
Senator Chamberlain, how would this take it out of compliance with federal law? It seems to me that federal law supersedes state law, but state law can be more restrictive than federal law, and this would just make our state law more restrictive than the federal law. It would seem to me it would just add to the federal law.
Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tomassoni, the federal law does not include an exemption for or an exception for the military personnel.
Next on the A52 amendment, Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am going to oppose this amendment. So my dad was drafted into the Korean War. He never really talked about it, and when he did, it was on 2, maybe 3 things. And mostly it was about he was upset with the military for 3 different things. First of all, when he was drafted to go to Korea, and he was in the DMZ zone in Korea, he was playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And one of his goals or aspirations was to actually see if he could hit a home run against the Green Monster at Fenway Park. And because he was drafted, he was upset with the military that they drafted him, because he, again, then never had that chance. He also worked the cannons in the military zone, DMZ zone in Korea, and so he had a hearing loss due to that. And then the third thing that he was mad at the military about when they drafted him was they gave out free cigarettes with your military rations, your lunch. He got free cigarettes. So at 18, 20 years old, he became addicted. So the military gave him free cigarettes, and he became addicted. And he fought that addiction, and he smoked until I was probably a teenager. And I remember how hard it was for him to quit. And he wanted to quit because he didn't want to just tell us not to start smoking or do drugs. He wanted to be able to say, don't smoke. So he quit, and that was very, very hard. It is addicting. This is, again, how do we treat addiction? And I have the most respect for the people in the military, and I have the most respect for what they do, and I appreciate for what they are doing, but I don't want them to get addicted. I don't want them to have to come back from the military or be in the military and have to fight that addiction like my dad did. This isn't about giving them freedom. This is about giving them the freedom to not start. This is about giving them the freedom to not have to face addiction. So with that, I encourage a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Tomassoni.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dietzig, I appreciate your story, and I'm a non-smoker, and I realize the dangers and harm that cigarette smoking can do. But this has nothing to do with addicting people in the military, because they don't hand out cigarettes anymore with the military uniform. But the fact of the matter is, if you're 18 years old and you can defend your country, you should be able to make a decision whether or not it is you want to smoke a cigarette. And so I'm not trying to say that, yes, we are going to try and addict all the soldiers to smoking. We're certainly not going to do that, and I would prefer they didn't. But at the same time, I don't know what kind of pressure or stress they are under, and I don't know if a cigarette is a relief of stress or not. However, I have a funny feeling that it has something to do with some of that, and I realize that maybe, just maybe, they might want to do it, and they should not be considered to be doing something illegal if they're 20 years old and they smoke a cigarette.
Further discussion on the A52 amendment? Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise against the A52 amendment. To add what was further said, yes, it is true. Federal law does not exempt anyone, including members of the armed forces, and therefore the state cannot provide exemptions as well. For example, in states that had a military exemption, like Arkansas, for example, that state amended their state policy after the federal law took effect. And just to add comfort, because we all support our veterans, and we stand tall for our veterans, and we thank them for all that they do and are willing to lay on the line for us. I do want to make sure that the body knows that the Department of Defense and each of the armed services has a stated goal of a tobacco-free military. Tobacco policies, Tobacco 21 policies, should not leave anyone behind, regardless of their profession or their military status. Thank you. I encourage a no vote on the A52.
Senator Tomassoni.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Nelson. I appreciate those comments. It's my understanding, and I hope we have a tobacco-free and smoke-free military. I would actually like to see that. But one of the reasons that this bill is in front of us is because some people are confused as to what the federal bill actually does. And so it seems to me if there's confusion as to what the federal bill actually does, then it's possible that an amendment like this will only add to the bill and won't kill the bill and won't do anything to hurt the bill. And so I believe that we might be on some grounds that we're treading lightly on, but at the same time, this amendment will not destroy this bill.
Any further discussion on the A52 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. No. We will pause while we take votes from alternate locations.
One of the things is that we make a lot of money in customer car dealerships doing title work for the dealerships. There's nobody's buying cars. So that's part of the message. Is that, hey, everybody, let's get going. Be safe. There's hope to the message. So get out and spend some money.
All those in the chamber in favor, please stand. All those opposed, please stand.
Way to go, Tom. No, it's almost like you're breaking a lot of smoke, but it's legal. That's the Ranger way.
There being an insufficient number of votes, the amendment does not pass.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Mr. President.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, can you announce the vote count for us?
Senator Westrom, the vote was 19 to 20.
Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President,
Senator
I call
Westrom.
a division.
We already announced it's insufficient. The amendment does not pass.
Division.
Insufficient. The amendment does not pass. We've announced that.
Mr. President, I called a division.
Senator Westrom, we did do a division, and that was the vote count. The amendment did not pass. Back to House File 331. Senator Howe. Senator Howe, please make your way to the chamber. Any other debate on House File 331 before third reading?
Well, I wanted to talk in the amendment.
He doesn't want to. The Secretary will give House File 331 its third reading.
House File Number 331, a bill for an act relating to health.
Third reading. Discussion on House File 331. Senator Hall. Senator Hall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I would like to encourage you to support this bill. Tobacco 21 is an important step towards aligning our state with our federal law and keeping our kids away from addiction. I believe this bill will get rid of any confusion that our retailers, our law enforcement, and even people across Minnesota have. By this bill, we will make it clear that no one under 21 can be sold tobacco products. There are so many reasons to let this bill pass. I'll start with my 8 children, 14 grandchildren. I want all of them to grow up healthy and strong. Unfortunately, the kids, the young people today, are taking up tobacco way too early, way too young, and it's devastating to them. And as leaders and elected officials, members, we are here to protect the youth from unhealthy behavior. Tobacco 21 will prevent youth tobacco use and save lives. The National Academy of Medicine, if you haven't heard, have said this is the best way to stop youth from starting. Tobacco 21 applies the same common sense age restriction that tobacco has as alcohol has with tobacco. Our goal, again, to make it a little bit harder for young people to access tobacco products, meaning fewer cigarettes and vapes in the hands of the middle schoolers or high schoolers. As a former teacher and principal, I know how susceptible teenagers are to addiction, and I believe it's really important to keep our kids healthy so they can achieve their goals and God-given purposes in life. As you may know, I tend to look at things through my lens of faith, family, and freedom. This represents my faith values, keeping families safer and healthier, and will give our kids the freedom to possibly live life without an addiction. There's overwhelming support for Tobacco 21. The polls show a great majority of smokers and Minnesota residents support Tobacco 21 because they know it will prevent young people from being trapped by nicotine addiction. Personally, I don't know anyone that wished that they had started smoking earlier. But I know plenty that wish they had never started smoking. Tobacco prevention will also hold down the costs of health care. As you've heard, smoking costs Minnesota $7 billion with a B, $7 billion a year lost in productivity and health care. So please join me today and pass the Tobacco 21 bill. Our Minnesota families are well worth it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hall. Next up, Senator Dziedzic and then Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill has been around for a while. I think it was back in 2013 in Tax Committee. One of the committee members kind of just made a casual remark, well, maybe we should just raise the age for tobacco to 21. And Senator Eaton jumped on that and said, I'll second that. So this has been around for a while. Thank you to the authors of the bill for their work over those last 7 years to improve the bill. And I also want to thank the American Lung Association, the American Heart Association, and the American Cancer Association, and Clearway, Minnesota, for all their work on this bill and for their advocacy to stop and reduce smoking, and particularly youth smoking. I mentioned on the floor last year when we were having a debate that I have third graders in my district. I've had teachers from schools in my district come up and tell me that they've had third graders show them their little vape pen and all excited because look what I got, teacher. And that teacher was shocked that that's a cigarette. And the kids did not know that that was a cigarette. So they don't know that these are cigarettes. They're just excited that that's the cool thing, and that's because the tobacco companies have marketed to them. So I think this bill will go a long way to reducing that smoking in schools. I've heard from teachers, and I know the Department of Health has heard from schools on what to do with all the vape pen products that they have confiscated. And so I think this bill will help keep those products out of those schools. This bill will help prevent kids from smoking and vaping, and I think that is good for Minnesota. Again, thank you to all the authors of the bill and their hard work, and I ask for a green vote.
Thank you, Senator Dziedzic. Senator Jensen and then Senator Hayden. Senator Jensen, please make your way to the floor. Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I speak in opposition to this bill. On December 20th, 2019, President Trump signed legislation raising the federal minimum age for sale of tobacco products from 18 to 21 years. The legislation was effective immediately. Mr. President, colleagues, we have all kinds of lifestyle issues that we could address. We could make it illegal to use alcohol from 0 to 100. We could do the same thing with tobacco. We could make it illegal to purchase certain kinds of foods, and those efforts have taken place in some public arenas. We could talk about pull tabs. We could talk about gambling. We could talk about so many things. To me, this legislation is just almost sort of pandering to, if you will, a public outcry that doesn't really get to the question. As a physician, I don't want anyone smoking. So I would much prefer that we have a constitutional amendment before the entire state of Minnesota to outlaw tobacco. I don't know why I would say that a 19-year-old can't buy a pack of cigarettes when a 67-year-old on a public health care program with emphysema and lung cancer and is on oxygen supplementation continues to purchase cigarettes. To me, this just doesn't make sense. So if we want to pass legislation, let's do it right. Let's have a constitutional amendment, and maybe the amendment doesn't have anything to do with tobacco at all. Maybe it just says, when are you an adult? Is it when you're 18? When you can sign contracts, get drafted into the military, when you can get married, when you can do so many things? Or is it 21? Or is it somewhere in between there? Do we want to play it really safe? And should we just say it's 25? But then if you go back to the whole concept of neurologic development and when does brain maturation occur, you've already heard me share on this floor that for women, full-blown neurologic cerebral development and maturation, according to some experts, starts at 33 and starts to tail off at 53. So for 20 years, we could let them do that. And for men, the situation is worse. We don't fully mature and develop cerebrally until we're about 40, and by 50, we're starting to slip. So we'd only have 10 years to smoke and drink. At some point in time, folks, I think we should really center ourselves on what's good legislation. We already have the feds having taken an action. Now we're saying between 18 and 21, you can smoke, but you can't purchase. So if you're able to get someone to purchase it for you, then you can go ahead and smoke it. It just doesn't make sense for me. To me, I think we should do the right thing. I think that we have, in this society, said that if you're 18 years of age, you're an adult. I think I would like to hear more from the 18 to 21-year-olds. If we don't pass this legislation today, we can do it next session when we're not doing all of our Zoom meetings, and we can have a better and more robust discussion. So I speak against the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jensen. Senator Hayden and then Senator Nelson.
Good. Well, thank you, Mr. President, and I won't be long. I think that all of the evidence shows that this is a good bill. What I wanted to do was to make sure, and I'm always find it interesting as Senator Jensen kind of walks through and says when we're mature and when we're not, and all of those, all of that evidence. But the one thing he did say that I kind of perked up is he said we should ask 18 and 21-year-olds, we should ask young people. Well, Mr. President, that's the leaders of this bill. It's groups like A Smoke-Free Generation or the Minnesota Menthol Coalition that my good friend Latricia Vital. It's the organization, the organizing that Clearway did with just a ton of young people. When I asked them, they said tons of students, young people, hundreds of youth, right? It is also all of the big coalitions, the cancer societies, and others. But what I do want to do is I want to send a shout out and a salute to all of the young people who are concerned. All of the young people who asked for this, all of the young people that are getting involved and said this, they want a better life and they want these kind of restrictions. So we have, and we are, and we continue to, and the reason why we're getting this great piece of legislation has been driven by young people. So I just want to say thank you to them. We often don't do that. We don't listen to them, but today we did, and I would invite members to vote for the amendment, if nothing else, for the young people.
Thank you, Senator Hayden. To that point, Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Hayden, for remarking on my remarks. I appreciate it. I have asked for the last 2 years so many of my patients that are between 18 and 21, some of them having mustered out of the military, and I said, do you think that we should discriminate by making laws for 18 to 21-year-olds? And I've never had anybody say, yes, you should do that. Thank you.
Senator Hayden, in response.
I just wanted to get up just because I know that Senator Jensen likes to respond to when we respond, so I'm responding to him to say maybe his sample size wasn't large enough. Maybe that will draw him back in because I know
Senator Hayden.
He doesn't particularly care for that. So thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that maybe his sample size wasn't large enough, but the tons and tons of young people that have built this coalition said that this is something that they want.
Senator Nelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and members. Well, in May of 2017, I introduced the Tobacco 21 bill. Seems like a long time ago, and a lot of things have changed since then. But today, the Minnesota Senate has the opportunity to join this life-saving movement. I do want to make sure that members are aware that this bill has gone through the process and not just via Zoom. We actually predated COVID-19 with this bill in the Minnesota Senate. It passed out of the Health and Human Services Committee and out of the Judiciary Committee in person. I do want to explain just a little bit about something that I don't know was covered today, which is so critical. Let us not lose sight of the fact that 95% of addicted smokers started under the age of 21. It is a critical age. Another piece not to lose sight of in this bill is it does update the definitions of tobacco to include vaping, which is a national crisis now. And the youth are very concerned about this. We can go into what they were told. They were lied to in many cases about this, not knowing how dangerous this vaping was. High nicotine impact paired with kid-friendly flavors. So this bill actually goes to reducing the pipeline. There are not a lot of 21-year-olds in high school, probably not. But there are a lot of 18-year-olds in high school. Maybe 20% of them are 18. This is about reducing the pipeline. I remember when I was in high school, the drinking age when I started high school was 18. But as I was in high school, suddenly, you know what? That drinking age changed to 21. And you can be sure I talked to my dad about that, the high school principal, wondering, why is this? Well, of course, it was because he made it very clear that 18-year-olds are the pipeline for the rest of the kids in the high school. And that hasn't changed. We did talk about our national leaders already setting the stage and passing Tobacco 21 at the federal level. But our job isn't done in Minnesota when our tobacco age remains at 18. And as you know, enforcement of the tobacco age happens at the federal, state, and local levels. And that's why this 21 law is necessary today in Minnesota. Our cities and counties are responsible for distributing tobacco retail licenses, and they work in collaboration with retailers, law enforcement, and youth to enforce the tobacco age. Retailers are important partners in our efforts to prevent youth tobacco access. I don't think anyone in this chamber supports increased youth tobacco access. And some retailers, though, have stated that they will continue to sell under 21 until the state changes the law. And our partners in law enforcement have also said that their hands are tied. I'll just give you two specific examples from media reports. In Eagan, a police spokesman said that they couldn't enforce federal 21 law because officers only enforce city and state laws. In southwest Minnesota, the Carver County Sheriff said that until the state adopts the new federal age requirements, there will be confusion. So this bill does continue this approach of strong community partnerships and levels the playing field so every community is enforcing the same tobacco age. And I do want to thank all of the authors for their leadership and their commitment to this bill. Republicans and Democrats from every corner of our great state have stood up and said that we are ready for Tobacco 21. Senators Klein, Senator Simonson, Senator Anderson, Senator Chamberlain, all of you have been champions on this bill, and I thank you for that. Many communities have adopted local policies, including Olmsted County, my district, and several nearby cities as well. And now there are 75 Tobacco 21 communities in Minnesota. And after today's vote, the entire state can have Tobacco 21. Our local law enforcement, local governments, League of Minnesota Cities, youth advocates, school administrators, coaches, local chambers of commerce, and some convenience store owners as well, and representatives of the tobacco industry support this. So members, I join with all those who have already spoken today in asking for a green vote. Tobacco's harm touches everyone, and our schools, and our families, and our communities. Let us help stop the start, and let's see Minnesota have T21. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Senator Kiffmeyer and then Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Well, I feel really sad about this bill. I feel really sad because I think it'll do little to nothing to really impact our young people. I remember even as a nurse in my early training days, we would actually light cigarettes for patients who were in hospital beds. Sounds absolutely atrocious, it was. But those were many, many years ago. But if there's one thing in taking care of soldiers over my time, realizing and talking to them and being a young person at realizing how life really works amongst our young people. So without this amendment from Senator Howe, which says we would treat you who are smoking under the age of 21 the same as those who are drinking under the age of 21. Absent that, I can hear the young people now saying, you mean We can't buy, but it's okay if we smoke. There'll be no consequences to us other than some other lectures and some other things that's going on right now. The lack of those consequences, they will have little to no effect. I think it's also exceptionally difficult that those soldiers and military who are trusted to carry guns and fight on behalf of all of us, oh, by the way, we trust them to vote for all of us. But we can't trust them in some of these decisions. But if you're going to be really serious, as you say, about this, to deny the amendment that actually could have some real effect to the young kids by not putting on the amendment that would treat those who smoke under the age of 21 like those who drink under the age of 21, this will have little to no effect. And that's what I really feel sad about, because I would very much like to see the real effect. Because I've seen all the education, the tens of millions of dollars that have been going on in tobacco cessation and other things. But passing this bill, which is already federal law, which is already in effect, and then not doing an amendment that would really make the difference, that makes me feel really sad. And members, I encourage you to vote no to House File 331. We can think better of our young people. Thank you.
All right.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
Senator Westrom, state your inquiry.
Mr. President, under the rules of the Senate, how are members' remote voting counted in the chamber? Are they present or are they excused absent?
Senator Westrom, they are counted if they are present.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point.
Mr. President, I raised a division on the floor on the last amendment, Thomasoni amendment, and I was told that everyone had counted and the vote was 19 to 20. Mr. President, I don't recall us ever hearing any vote from the folks that have been voting remotely from home. And so, Mr. President, I want to know what rule you cited establishing that those present were only 39 people and not counting the folks that were remotely voting.
Senator Westrom, the rules we went by were that you had to actively participate for this vote, and if you were not here, your vote was not taken. Except for a vote on a bill.
Mr. President.
Senator Westrom.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, can you cite me what rule that is you're referring to? Number and line, please.
Senator Westrom, you would participate in a roll call vote if you were in a remote location, but not for a procedural vote.
Mr. President.
Or voice vote.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, what rule are you citing to give me that parliamentary advice?
Senator Westrom, the rule was pointed that the Secretary would make the rule. The rule was sent out before the vote, and that's what we abided by.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, how does that rule square with custom and usage here in the Senate? Custom and usage all the time I have been served in the Senate is when a division is called, even if members are outside the chamber or in the retiring room, they are asked to come in and participate because they're present even though they're not specifically at their desks. That is custom and usage, Mr. President. Does the rule that you are citing from the Secretary have higher precedent over custom and usage? Or is custom and usage a higher precedent?
Senator Westrom, custom and usage was not offended. It was for the members present in the Senate. The division was not called until after the vote. So the procedures that we abided by were what the Senate Secretary has established for the vote.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, if the division was called after the vote and you're explaining to me that it was called after the vote as if it was an error, should have the division been called before the vote was taken, or what is the error of calling a division after the vote?
Senator Westrom, under current rules, the way we took the roll was basically as we would do a division, the way the vote was taken.
So Mr. President.
Senator Westrom.
In your explanation, parliamentary inquiry, in your explanation of the vote of 19 to 20, were you just counting the folks, the members that were physically present in the chamber? Is that what I understand?
Senator Westrom, and the alternate locations in the Capitol, correct.
Mr. President.
Senator Westrom.
I rise to raise this point of order and this issue. I don't believe we should be perverting the Senate rules to have an outcome like we just saw. When a division is called, I will review the Secretary's memo that you're referring to. But when a division is called, all those that are present for the day to vote should get an opportunity to vote, not just those that are convenient to the chamber. If we're going to have modifications to the rules to try to accommodate social distancing, I think the rules should be applied fairly across the board, whether somebody chooses to vote remotely and stay quarantined, or if they choose to vote near the chamber in a side room, or if they're in the chamber. Mr. President, members, I do not believe the rules were applied properly on that vote. When a division was called, everybody should have had the right to assert their vote. And Mr. President, I just raised that issue because we've got many other bills of controversy that might be coming up. And when it's convenient, it's one way, one time you can go this way, but when it's not convenient, we don't want the rules to start being used for convenience to get something passed or to kill something. And that's what it appears to me like what happened just on the Tomassoni amendment, with only 39 of the 67 senators having the opportunity to vote on that division. We should have called all the members that were participating in the Senate today and had a fair vote to decide if we should have this amendment from Senator Tomassoni to apply to the military men and women in our state or not. So I raise this point because there's many other issues that may come up, and I think we need to figure it out, because we don't want to pervert the Senate rules just because somebody supports something or somebody doesn't support something. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to vote. Members, I think this bill needs more work, and so we should spend more time on it. We should fix it. We should not make criminals out of people we allow to legally do something in our state. But this bill doesn't address those issues. It's going to send a very conflicting message. You can get married, you can sign a contract, you can become an adult at 18, you can smoke at 18, but you can't purchase. Now, how weird does that sound to the average person listening in the public? When you have laws that are either confusing or don't make sense, it doesn't take long and the public figures out a way to disregard it. And I think we're doing an injustice to the citizens of Minnesota when we send this kind of confusing, bifurcated law. Again, you can buy cigarettes at age 21 or older. It took me about a month of asking people that were working on this bill and staff to really figure out if you could still legally smoke in Minnesota at the age of 20, 19, or 18. And the answer finally is, yes, you can smoke. If you happen to find the cigarettes on the street corner or some other way, you're able to smoke them. But if you go into a store, you're going to put that store clerk in great jeopardy with a fine and penalty, but you're not going to be subject to any fine or penalty because you can smoke. You can try to buy, putting other people at great risk of their license or their job, get them in trouble, but you have no culpability, no responsibility under this bill. So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, members, if we're going to at least be fair, we should treat the clerks the same as the person trying to perpetuate the crime. But here, we're going after small businesses and the staff they hire. They're going to be the criminals if somebody under 21 happens to buy a pack of cigarettes, which is, by the way, a legal product they can possess and smoke under this bill. But you can't buy them under this bill. So we either should have the great debate, as Senator Jensen said, should we outlaw tobacco on a constitutional amendment? Or should we treat people like adults? When they turn 18, they can make the choice. Or should we do this, which I don't think is the right way to go, give them a very confusing law that they can legally smoke, but you can't purchase. And if you try to purchase, you're going to put somebody's job or business in great jeopardy if you get away with purchasing and you're not 21. Members, I think this bill needs a lot more work, and we should have added the amendments that we didn't get an opportunity to add.
Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we've made some unique exceptions during this pandemic. Never before has anybody been able to vote anywhere but in here, but we are trying to follow the CDC guidelines, distancing. We created the opportunity for people to be in other rooms. We acknowledge that people that were vulnerable in particular shouldn't be near here, and so we made a unique exception of letting people to vote from other places. We've had this in place for a number of weeks now. If there is an amendment and people ask for a roll call, everybody gets to vote. If an author of an amendment gets up and starts speaking about that amendment, but then they want to take it back and there is no vote, there's no vote at all. Or the author can present that and we vote, and those that are here vote, and we don't move any farther. And so, but just for the record, because I think it's important on this one, the only other amendment failed pretty strongly in a bipartisan way. I did circle back to Senator Tomassoni and said, do you want to have a roll call vote? No, he did not want one. But he brought this up, And so for the record, I think it's important that, that the people know that the process has been the same all the way through, not just this one bill. We want everybody to have a say, and so that's important. If you want to be here, that we want to do that. If you need to be safe somewhere else, we want to allow that exception. And so nothing was different on this bill than any of the other bills we've done.
Thank you, Senator Gazelka. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. A few years ago, my position on this bill was different, but that position changed when I started hearing from constituents. I've heard from teachers, parents, moms and dads, grandparents, about the amount of vaping that's going on in our schools, high schools, and even in our middle schools. And that changed my perspective on this issue. When it comes to youth tobacco use and vaping, some of the statistics are staggering. I'm just going to read a couple of those statistics. E-cigarette usage by high school students increased by 78% from 2017 to 2018. 78%. 26% of 11th graders vaped in the last month. The 8th grade vaping rate nearly doubled from 2016 to 2019. The vaping rate amongst 8th graders doubled in 3 years. 95% of addicted adult smokers started before the age of 21. A 2015 report from the National Academy of Medicine revealed that Tobacco 21 could prevent 223,000 deaths among people born between the years 2020 and 2019, including reducing lung cancer deaths by 50,000. Members, today we are helping make a difference for the youth in Minnesota. As a lawmaker, and especially as a father of 3 young boys, I am incredibly proud to support this bill today.
Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to all my colleagues who have spoken to the issue. Every year in this country, we have 250,000 people die of respiratory illnesses. If we would simply outlaw tobacco, we could reduce that number by easily more than half. Every number that Senator Miller quoted, I agree with. I just don't think those numbers justify what I consider sloppy, confusing legislation that doesn't hold the person culpable for his action when he puts someone else in harm's way, he or she. We already have federal legislation putting a T21 bill in place. So I think that it's reasonable to understand that on this bill, whether people vote yes or no, it would probably not be construed as a yes or no vote for tobacco use. It has more to do with duplicative legislation. It has more to do with the soundness of the verbiage that we have. But thank you, Senator Miller. I agree with you entirely.
Next, Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will be brief. I just also want to echo my support that we are making this change. As others have noted, I have heard from young people in my district about how badly we need to do something like this, and I too have been horrified as the mother of a now 19-year-old and watching what he has seen in his time in middle school and high school. It has not been a healthy change for our youth after we had made so much progress in breaking the cycle of nicotine addiction, and this is a step in the right direction. I also want to acknowledge Senator Chris Eaton, who has worked on this legislation over the years. She was a pioneer on this issue early on. She can't be with us here today, but I definitely want to thank her for her leadership getting us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kent. We're on third reading, House File 331. Final comments, Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members. Again, thank the authors, Senator Nelson, Senator Klein, Senator Simonson, Senator Anderson, and others who have offered their support to bring this to the floor today and get it done. A lot of good points, a lot of good debate. I too, like Senator Miller, have changed my mind over the years on this particular issue. We are not going to get everything right and perfect. We're just not. I'm a liberty and I'm a freedom guy. We try to deal with logic all the time. Not everything fits neatly and perfectly in every hole and every niche. It just doesn't. So sometimes we do things that we can do. We do what we do when we can to make hopefully a positive difference. And in the end, this is about discouraging our youth from using tobacco and increasing vaping. I'm a free market guy, but I also understand addiction and what companies and people will do to keep folks using their products. There's something in particular I'm thinking about, but it happens all the time. But where we can do something and do something positive and take a step down that road, I think it's important we do that. And we can change our minds over time and see the light. If we don't, well then there's trouble. But in the end, if imperfect as it is, we can move this down the road and help protect the youth and keep them from using tobacco and causing all the problems that so many others have cited, and Senator Miller most recently. So members, thank you for the discussion. Thank you for the debate. Perfect? No, but this is the right direction to go if we want to help stabilize this, protect the youth, and encourage them not to use the vaping products and use more tobacco. So members, thank you very much, and please vote green.
Thank you, Senator Chamberlain. With no other comments, the Secretary will take the roll on House File 331. Those members in the retiring room, please come to the floor to cast your vote. Those members in GOP caucus room, Capitol Room 303, please come to the floor to cast your vote. Members from the President's office, please come to the floor to cast your vote. Those members in Capitol Room 206, please make your way to the floor to cast your vote. Members in Capitol Room 237, please make your way to the floor and vote. Members in Capitol Room 323, please make your way to the floor and cast your vote. Pursuant to Rule 14.4, we will now take the votes from remote locations. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Champion.
Senator Champion votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes aye. Senator Kent.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Senator Isaacson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Bruce Anderson votes no.
Senator Anderson B. votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Dames votes no.
Senator Dames votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Eichhorn votes no.
Senator Eichhorn votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Ingebretson votes no.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Lang votes no.
Senator Lang votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Pratt votes yes.
Senator Pratt votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Rude votes yes.
Senator Rude votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Senjum votes yes.
Senator Senjum votes yes. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Newman votes no.
Senator Newman votes no. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Rosen votes yes.
Senator Rosen votes yes.
Anderson, no. Anderson,
Yes or
no.
no? Close the roll. Osmic, yes or no on
Osmic, no.
Mr. President,
Senator Gazelka.
Senator Osmic votes no.
Senator Osmic votes no.
Where'd they all go?
The Secretary will close the roll. With all those members having voted that wish to vote, there are 43 ayes and 21 noes. The bill passes and its title agreed to.
All right, members, we are going to continue working off an addendum to the agenda. Remaining under motions and resolutions, will revert to the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House files herewith transmitted. House file numbers 4490 and 4599. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
There's no action required on that message. Remaining under motions and resolutions, we'll move to the fourth order of business, first reading of House bills. The House files listed in the addendum are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that House File number 4599 be laid on the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Remaining under motions and resolutions, we'll move to the fifth order of business, reports of committees. Please make note of the committee reports listed in the agenda. There's no further action required on those committee reports. Moving to the ninth order of business, motions and resolutions, continuing under motions and resolutions. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, members, we're going to recess for the evening. No further votes are expected. We're going to process things through Rules Committee. Senate should plan on a 10 a.m. start on the floor. Rules Committee will meet 15 minutes from now, so I get over to the Minnesota Senate building. Finance Committee will meet 30 minutes from now. And with that, Mr. President, I move for a recess for the call of the President.
Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate recess to the call of the President. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The Senate is in recess.